Hello, everyone. My name is Ken. I am pleased to take a few minutes to walk you through our fireside chat today. I'm joined by Sourabh Sharma of the DBS Bank. Good to see you. And Jolie Ahuja from Google Maps platform. And for the next half hour, 40 minutes or so, we're going to have the privilege and opportunity to walk and share some ideas with you guys on helping consumers understand the impact of their spend and for sustainability and helping with climate change.
As I was saying, it's a new digital platform to build a better world together with our customers. And under that, it has multiple product pillars which we have launched, such as Give Better, Invest Better, Track Better, and Offset Better. I'll just quickly touch upon what Give and Invest is. Give is about giving funds to eco-friendly organizations. These can either be charities or even social enterprises which are fighting climate change, either directly or indirectly, or are using sustainable solutions which are not harming the planet, right? As you know, we all are very anxious about climate change. For a long time, we were hearing about climate change, but now we are feeling it, right? Whether it be the unprecedented floods which are happening in Indonesia, or even large parts of India and Sri Lanka as we speak, or even the rising temperatures which are happening. We are really feeling it now. And as any selfish person, a lot of people say that, oh, climate change is very altruistic. Actually, it's not. As a selfish person, I want to live in a better world, right? We want to do more. But what was lacking was the tools were really not there for people to do beyond just what you and I can do in daily life, whether it be to use reusable cups or use your own bottles for water, etc. Right? So that's where we started off saying, what can we do to enable our customers to amplify their actions? And that's how we came up with the whole platform, which is Live Better.
And I'm Jolie Ahuja. First of all, I hope all of you are doing well. You're keeping yourself safe. I am part of Google Maps team. I manage channel sales for Southeast Asia and Australia, New Zealand, working very closely with premier partners such as Snowdrop here. And indeed, very excited to be part of this discussion, speaking alongside Ken and Sourabh. So, yep, we'll try to make this session as informative and as useful as possible. Plus, as Ken mentioned, please post your questions and we'll try to answer them. Now, before we go deep dive into Google Maps, I would throw the question back to you, Ken, because everyone talks about Google. Everyone knows at least Google, and everyone knows DBS. I can testify that, right? But we haven't heard much about Snowdrop, and I know, working with your team, that you have done some incredible job in Europe and other parts of the world. So definitely it would be good for audience to know what Snowdrop is and what are the use cases you have implemented in Europe and what are the learnings we can bring back to Asia. So over to you, Ken.
Okay, I'll try my best. Thanks, Jolie. So we've been working with Google Maps for almost 10 years now. The company is based in London, and we have offices in Singapore, in Spain, and in Bath, which is in the west of the UK. We work primarily in three sectors: travel, real estate, and financial services. What we do is really some of the underpinnings using the Google Maps and the Google Cloud technologies to really understand. Sourabh just mentioned a few minutes ago, getting more granular, more accurate understanding of helping consumers understand their spend. So how many of you have ever looked at your bank statement and you go, you're taking out, you spent money and you say, what is that? You don't recognize it. Maybe you went on a trip or something. Right? Yeah. Happens all the time. So we started about 4 years ago building a product called Merchant Reconciliation System. It's an API that uses Google Maps and Google Cloud. And what we have found is, at least mostly in Europe, and we see this as well as some of the banks in Southeast Asia, about 5% of all transactions, people just don't understand.
Google Maps is a platform. We give a platform which is super familiar. It has a global presence and it is robust. So let me unpack it a bit. I mean, today we have around 1 billion active users across 220 countries and territories. We divide our Google Maps platform into maps, which is for visualization, into routes, which is moving from point A to point B, and the most important, the places. We have around 200 million places data. in last few years, we have done around 10 billion updates, which means the places which you're talking about, which you and Ken mentioned, like, the vegetarian restaurant or the McDonald's of the world, where are they located? What are their opening hours? What are their closing hours? What is the footfall? So, all these things actually helps users in making decision. You just showed your LiveBetter app, which is super useful, but I get that statement after I've done the purchase. How about if I know the information before I make a purchase? So I'm actually able to make a much informed decision that where should I go, how much fuel I would be spending going to that place. Am I going at the right time or I'm going at the wrong time? So all these things actually help not just users, but also the companies like DBS Banks or any other companies to make an informed decisions and develop an application which is hosted on Google Cloud and which use Google Maps platform.
I realized that, for us as a bank, right, when we do the carbon footprint estimate, it is all post facto. That means after the customer has gone to that steakhouse or he has taken the longer route to reach somewhere, right? So we cannot influence that particular decision, and we can just hope to influence the next one. But actually, I envy your position, because you are able to influence the action before it happens, right? So when I'm planning to go from point A to point B, you can actually tell me that, hey, if I take this other route or take public transport, my carbon emissions will be X% lower or whatever, right? So you can actually prevent it altogether.
So what we found is that by giving people additional things, not only in a transaction per transaction basis, but on a monthly and the aggregate basis, with recommendations what they could do to be more in the norm or better than the norm, a little bit of gamification, right? You're the greenest among your friends, and you can share that information. That's something that we found to be, it's similar to like counting your steps rather than counting your calories. Counting your calories, a little bit abstract. Counting your steps, people find that much more relatable, and you can compare with others. Yeah. That was the experience that we found.
Yeah, and you want to go towards achieving that, right? You want to increase the number of steps.
Yeah, with the reward, you get a cashback bonus of 1% or something like that at this merchant, which is part of the green scheme or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that is really a necessity if you want to create a behavioral change in the customers. So, I mean, as much as we would all like to think that, hey, it's all our responsibility and we should all, fight climate change and be climate conscious. The reality is that we are humans and we're all incentivized by rewards. So if you want to do behavioral change, you need to tie rewards even to these green actions. It should not be something which you can, scold or guilt the people into doing it. In fact, the moment you try rewards, you will see a very self-fulfilling cycle of, people doing a green action, getting that reward, and then that creating a vicious, it's not vicious, but like a good
virtuous cycle.
Yeah, virtuous cycle, not vicious. It was a good virtuous cycle in terms of the customer going back and doing more of those green actions.
We deployed at a UK bank, and within the first month of having that clear transactions, the number of calls to their call center dropped 30%. Now, the average call to a call center in the UK is £10. That's like $12 US. I believe in Singapore, it's about $5 to $7 US, or, it's in Malaysia, it's even less, right? But what we saw is that very quickly, not only are these services good for the environment, they're good for the bank, because you can quickly save money and increase what's called net promoter scores. So people trust the bank more. That transparency means people spend more time engaged with the bank, eager to do more things with the bank, even as you talked about earlier, investing smarter with the bank or saving smarter with the bank.
I think the user experience is the most important, and that's where that decides the future of that application, because attention span is really limited for the users right now. I know, and especially with such solutions like this, it is, each one of us know that it is good to have, but we don't know how to use it. So I'm sure you must have faced similar obstacles, similar problems while you were implementing these solutions in Europe. So it would be good to understand that what are the obstacles you face and how did you overcome it, and what it takes for a user to adopt a solution.
So, thank you, Julie. Good question. I would say there's sort of two main areas of that. First is, let's start with the bank first, right? Because we work with digital or traditional banks. And I would say in some parts of Europe, there's a huge not invented here or do it yourself mentality. You know, they want to build everything themselves from scratch. And the problem with that is, you know, are you going to build a database of 200 million merchants constantly updated with all that, you know, environmental climate change information? It's just not possible. Believe it or not, though, I have spoken to banks that says, oh, we're in the process of building our own merchant database, our own search engine. So my belief is kind of, I think it was Charles Darwin who said, or maybe it was Isaac Newton, forgive me, I want to stand on the shoulders of giants, right? So my view is, why reinvent the wheel, right? So, you know, that's the first thing of some of the more traditional banks. They try and reinvent the wheel each time. The second thing is, you know, some of the banks, they have huge backlog development things already planned, right? So what we've been doing, at least in terms of getting this implemented, is we've made our MRS solution 4 to 8 weeks. It's a simple API, behind the scenes, it's all hosted in Google Cloud, super secure. No personal information is involved. So there's not that criticality and all the security hoops we have to go through.
I think just seeing everything on, it could be your heat map, transaction heat map. It could be the way you are traveling. If you have the data actually influence your decisions. So if you have that information much in advance, it really helps in making decisions. So that's where I think solutions which Snowdrop has are powered by Google Maps platform. It really helps in making those decisions.
Yeah, that's what we saw when we launched with some of the digital banks, Jolie. The biggest problem they had is no one knew who they were. You know, some of these banks now, like Monzo in the UK or Chase is well known, obviously in the United States. No one knew them in the UK. These guys are incredibly well known now, Starling as well. They're rated some of the best brands in the UK. Why? People like to have that visualization. Oh, here it is on a map. You know, I can see, I get it. It's intuitive.
Visualization is definitely one thing which drives the behavior, because you see how you're spending, where you're traveling. So that's super important. Second, it is also for, you know, to give geo-marketing offers. Like if I know, as again, it's rewarding for me if I know if something is like 5 minutes, as well as they're giving me $5 off if I go between 12 to 1, and you know, I can have my cup of coffee, which is 1+1 going on right now, perhaps. So I can bring back the coffee to my office. So these offers really matters. So if you have location attached to it, you can actually see when you have to go, how you have to go, and make the decisions accordingly. So of course, the data enrichment, visualization, geo-marketing offers, all these things can make your app really powerful and are combined with an intent to really, you know, live better. So that has been my actually findings or my experiences with the fintech companies. But Saurabh, from your standpoint, and Ken, you have been speaking to multiple fintech companies. What are your things are the top 3 things which matters the most for the users as well as for the organization?
Yeah.
Ken,
go ahead. Okay. I think from our experience, I would again, you know, at the edge of repeating myself, I think user experience is very, very important. If you are able to show a great user experience, that is what helps customers to, you know, really stick to your product. The other is when you are able to win over the trust, where you know, customers don't feel that customers don't feel that this is a product which the company is doing it for themselves, but it's a product which they've made it for the customers. And by this, I mean taking into account the personal preferences of the customer himself, right? As I was giving an example earlier, that you know, carbon footprint calculation without taking into account whether the customer is a vegetarian or a vegan kind of still creates that gap between what the customer's expectations are and what the bank is providing. If you are able to create more personalization where, you know, the data speaks to the customer, where he can clearly see that, okay, I went to a vegetarian restaurant, or this entire week I was meatless, my carbon footprint is actually lower. And I can see that in my carbon footprint tracker, once he's able to see that delta, that is the real motivator and gets the customer to say, okay, I want to take more actions around this. And the last thing would be the rewards and incentivization, right? So no matter how much we want to think that, this is something which all of us, all the customers should do it on their own, if we attach the right incentives and rewards mechanism, that can really push the customer behavior towards more such actions. How can we get an ROI on this, and any examples? And it's a great question. I would like to answer that, because there are these myths, that, oh, if you do something in sustainability space, it is you can't get enough returns on it. So I would say that there are clearly some streams on return on the investment. Firstly is when you direct people to invest in green funds. That is a clear ROI, because you get whatever is the commissions from the sale of purchase of those green funds. The other one is on the spending itself. So as Ken was also mentioning, while we show the carbon footprint estimate of the customers, it's very important to say that this is the alternate. This is the another shop where you can go to spend, right? So if we are able to, show a recommendation, then we are in a position to charge a commission on the recommendation which we are giving, whether it's a more green option for the customer. So that's another revenue stream I would say. For you don't need to reduce your spends as much as that is one objective. The other is you can change the shift in terms of buying behavior from more brown purchases to more green purchase, and that's where you can get commissions if you provide such a service.